Welcome to United Network News, the official news channel for CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. I'm Sunny Galt. At UNN, you get the real news. Through our field messengers, we show you the truth about what's really taking place in our communities. We also bring you stories to help you remember who you are and why you're here, as well as regional stories that impact the people. And our World Situation Report reveals what's happening throughout the multiverse. We are here to restore Earth.
In the U.S., it is Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. In eastern Uganda, the Promise Junior School is providing hope to the community. Learn more about their goals to educate and help make the world a better place. In Tennessee, art is helping to heal wounds from the past. This collaborative exhibit honors local heroes and shares stories of empowerment. As a society, we put labels on everything, which holds us back. What would happen if our children didn't have those same restrictions? A cyber attack in the UK impacts 7 major hospitals. Who was targeted, and how were patients affected? And a huge trade union strike in Nigeria has been called off, but not before it led to a nationwide blackout.
This is Calen Gipp, messenger for United Network News. Here's a look at today's field messenger reports from all around the world. Since 2021, the Promise Junior School in eastern Uganda has been offering educational opportunities to children in need. UNN Field Messenger Brian reports on its impact and community involvement.
Hello everybody watching me. I'm called Brian Kato, UNN Field Messenger from eastern Uganda, Musaga region, located in Jinja, Mafobia village. I'm here to share with you a little bit about a story in a community as far as Promise Junior School is concerned. Promise Junior School is a school in a community that I started way back in 2021 under my organization called Wutiki Children's Ministry. We are trying to make the world a better place through providing affordable education to children from poor backgrounds, from poor families. We had invited a visitor all the way from France. She was sent by Travel with a Mission organization. It's a voluntary organization. So we were so excited and happy to receive her. She gave out books, pens, pencils, and everything as far as education materials are concerned. So we had lunch together with the children. We were so happy, and she promised to go back and bring more volunteers to come on the ground also, because I was once also helped and everything is going on well. However, we still need more to come. That's the editor I would like to share with you today. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
A collaborative art exhibition in Tennessee titled Breaking the Chains of Forgetfulness showcases 3 artists' dedication to healing racial disharmony and honoring local heroes. UNN Field Messenger Kathleen takes us through the exhibit.
Hello, this is Kathleen, Field Messenger reporter for United Network, reporting to you from the President James K. Polk Museum in Columbia, Tennessee. President Polk owned slaves himself, and they were present and working at the site where this exhibit is taking place. It was put together as a result of a lifelong commitment of artist Bernice Davidson to both document the sad way that people were treated, indigenous people and people of color in this country during the slave days, and also to shine a light on the people who were heroes of their time, who exhibited great compassion for their fellow humans and should be remembered. So she called the show Breaking the Chains of Forgetfulness. We have 5 paintings here by Michael McBride about the life of Elias Polk, who was born into slavery and gifted to James K. Polk and his wife as a wedding gift before James K. Polk became the United States president.
You know, they're just all about things like grandmother wanted to live there. Yeah, I love Heston. What I hear, I keep symbolizes receptivity to learning and the ability to keep secrets. Enjoying crocodiles, the importance of working together and avoiding tribalism and racism. And know about Sankofa.
Yeah, yes, that's familiar to me.
Let's look to your ancestors, that's where the wisdom lies.
Yep.
And this is really the story of the kitchen scene. They're all crying because the cook ran away at one point and she got caught and beaten.
I hope you've enjoyed watching this Field Messenger report from Columbia, Tennessee, on how Michael McBride, Gemma Perrin, and Bernice Davidson collaborated as artists to help facilitate social change. Thank you for watching.
We want you to become a UNN Field Messenger. These are everyday people just like you who want to make a difference in their community. You don't need any special training or equipment. Just use the camera on your mobile phone and show us what's happening in your area. You send us your videos and our production team will create the report for you. Our new website is now up and running at unitednetwork.earth. You can submit your Field Messenger reports directly through the Field Messenger tab at the top of the page. You can also email your reports to our new email address at fieldmessenger@unitednetwork.earth.
Hey, I'm Kirsten from Switzerland.
This is Wayne from Tucson.
Hi, my name is Desmond from Ghana.
I am Claudia from Dawsonville, Georgia.
I'm Mikey from Pretoria, South Africa.
Hi, I'm Steve McGrath, Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada.
People from all around the world are coming together.
Happy day, beautiful world. We are here in a rather small urban garden, and this video is just to show you the joys that we've had in this garden with the electric gardening.
When news happens in their area, they show us what's really going on.
We have people in the streets protesting for and against.
At United Network News, our field messengers are changing the face of news.
This is Field Messenger Helen reporting with nature, and I'm going to talk to you about the bees again.
Take the next step in restoring our planet. Become a UNN Field Messenger today.
Hi, I'm Stephanie from South Africa. If it's going to be, it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to me. It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to all of us. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news.
In our current 3D world, humanity is divided. Society often tries to label us and put us into groups to limit our power and create the illusion that we are different from one another. As parents and caregivers, we often do the same thing to our kids, even though we may have the best intentions. Belinda Tung has learned firsthand the importance of leaving behind those labels and trusting her child's wisdom. This led her to create Perfect Child, a support system to deprogram from cultural and societal norms. So Belinda is back with us again today. And Belinda, we're talking about, of course, our children. And some of the things we have a tendency to do, maybe not even cognitively understanding what we're doing. Today, we're talking about putting labels on our kids. You know, I've done this with my own kids. You know, I don't mean to. Sometimes it just happens. Belinda, I was telling you earlier that I have a set of twins and I have a tendency to label certain things. Oh, that's what twins do, or twins this, or you know what I mean? That's just one example of what I do. But let's talk a little bit about what we do with our children when it comes to these labels and some of the unintended consequences that happen as a result.
Yeah, that is it's really kind of a subject that touches my heart. Ever since I had my child, I feel like being around parents and hearing them label their child, or actually using the label that has been given their child by an outside environment, right? A diagnosis, like visceral reaction where I just like, my heart breaks a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it stems from like when I was a child, I was told I was stupid, right? You're just dumb. You're just dumb. You're stupid. And I don't know whether it was a joke or whatever. And it made me feel bad. And then when I grew up, it was like, oh, that was just a label that was given me and it's not true. And then I realized, just as you were saying, like I would use labels for my daughter too sometimes, like, oh, you're so lazy, right? But we don't have to say things like that. And can we be more mindful with our words? And so it's that. And also words matter. Right? There is an energetic connection with the words that we use. And when we give somebody a label, we don't give them room for transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like putting them in a box, box with a label, and that's what you are. And that can have a lot of damage on your psyche. I remember there were some things, and I grew up, fortunately, with very loving parents. But my mom had some tough love for me. She still does to this day. She's very blunt. And she would say stuff to me, and I think her intention was to help me grow or be better. But for example, she would say, well, you're not good at that, whatever that was. Right. And in my head, I was like she was thinking, don't waste your time on that because you're better at this. Right. But later in life, when I would need to do whatever that first thing was that she told me I wasn't good at, there was always something in my head that was like, no, you're not good at that. You can't do that. And I don't mean to throw my mom under the bus, but we do this as parents, in general, not, we may have the best intentions, but this happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually just interviewed Allison Ellsbury of Embodied Brilliance. This is my second interview with her because she talks about labels. Right. Yeah. And so we had this really engaging conversation around what a label does. Right? How it informs your psyche as a parent and also the child's psyche and everyone around that person.
Yeah.
Right? And when it's given to you outside of yourself and it's the system telling you that your child has ADD or ADHD, right? It actually disempowers you. Right. And again, going back to the perfect child thing where we look at our children with rose-colored glasses. Yeah. If somebody were to say, oh, your child has ADHD because she's not sitting in class, she's fidgeting, she's disruptive. No, she's spirited. She wants to be outside. Children are naturally really connected to the spiritual world and to nature, and that's where they belong, right? So as a parent, can we take that and say, that's not how I'm going to describe my child? One, and two, this environment doesn't work for her and she's clearly showing me that. So how can I change her environment?
Yeah. Yeah. Being proactive in it. What do you do though when you're in a society that constantly wants to put labels on things, right? We feel more comfortable. It's like, we need to know what that is. What is that? That's unusual. That's strange. We have all these words. Oh, it makes sense because you have XYZ, so we like to have kind of, I don't want to call it closure, but it feels like at least you can identify things. So you feel like you're more in control. Maybe that's what's going on. But what do we do when we live in this world where that's just how life is? How do we combat that?
Well, I love that you asked that question because that's really essentially the thing, right? We feel better because we've labeled it. However, how does it really feel? Right? One of the other wisdom keepers that I interviewed, she was going through the whole hamster wheel of having her child being labeled. She went to go see the specialist and she was really starting to feel really terrible about herself and the future of her child. Mm-hmm. And then finally she was like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't believe these words. And so the first thing she said that she did was she called up all her friends, all of her close family, and was like, this is not how I'm describing my son anymore. These are not the words I'm going to use to describe him. And I'm also not doing all of this going to see specialists anymore, trying to fit him in a box. And she says, since then, she's seen him form more vocabulary words, and he's happy and he's progressing so much faster than before, right? So basically, essentially, when you put a label that somebody's given you for your child, that dims their light. And when you let their light shine, right, then transformation comes. And so I think we're at a place right now where every person has a choice. You either want to do more of the same because it feels easy, or you want to take up that torch and say, I brought this child into this world. She or he is going to transform this world. And the only way that we can allow these children to transform humanity in a positive way is if we get out of their way.
Right. As a way to support caregivers, several public libraries in America offer innovative parent-child workstations. These cubicles feature computers with internet access and built-in play areas for infants and toddlers, making library services more accessible to parents of young children. Situated near open play areas, these stations allow parents to keep an eye on older children as well while using library computer services. This creative solution caters to a common need, providing relief for those trying to study or find work while caring for young children. By eliminating the struggle of choosing between focusing on their children or doing their work, these new workstations have revolutionized the library experience for many users. This initiative highlights the library's role in creating community support and inclusion, making it easier for everyone to benefit from its resources. Home gardening has become a favorite activity for many families, offering both physical and mental health benefits. Research indicates just 30 minutes of gardening can significantly reduce stress for both children and adults. Gardening connects children with nature, providing hands-on learning about plants and insects, which helps reduce fear of the unknown. It's a physical activity that engages both large and small muscle groups through tasks like bending, digging, and lifting. Gardening also develops problem-solving skills as children figure out how to help plant seeds, how to make them grow, and also how to deal with pests. Studies show little gardeners have stronger immune systems and focus better during tests. An added bonus is children are more likely to eat food they've grown themselves, boosting their enthusiasm for healthier eating. Planting themed gardens like pizza or fairy gardens ignites their imagination, making outdoor play magical and educational. Gardening with children enhances curiosity, teaches responsibility, and creates lasting memories and lifelong appreciation for nature. Worm charming, an interesting pastime involving dancing or soaking the earth to attract worms, is being promoted by scientists and the Soil Association for Soil Health. The association's Worm Hunt, running through May of this year, aims to involve citizens in counting worms to assess soil health and biodiversity in the UK. The findings will contribute to a worm map, indicating soil quality and helping to address the decline in worm populations, which have decreased by 1/3 in the past 25 years. Worms play a crucial role in maintaining healthy soil. They are considered ecosystem engineers as they aerate and mix the soil, allowing for better water infiltration and nutrient distribution. They also break down organic matter, releasing nutrients that can be used by plants. These small creatures have a big impact on the health and productivity of our soil. We are United Network News. Every day, we release real stories from real people all over the world.
Field Messenger reporting from Gold Coast, Australia,
Denmark,
Canada,
Uganda,
from Atlanta, in Southern California.
In their own words, people like you share what's really happening in their area. At UNN, you are the news. You are creating a new world with infinite possibilities. You are the restoration plan. Come join us for the real news every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, only on United Network. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news. Hundreds of protesters have gathered in Berlin, Germany, demanding an end to military aid for Ukraine and opposing anti-Russia rhetoric. They carried banners stating "Stop war" and hate speech against Russia, and NATO is the aggressor, not Russia. The demonstrators accused the German government of acting under U.S. influence. They voiced concerns Germany's support for Ukraine, particularly providing long-range weapons, endangers German citizens and could escalate into a broader conflict. German officials recently signaled Ukrainian attacks on Russian territories using Western-supplied arms could be justified. Moscow has warned such actions by NATO and the West will only prolong the conflict, escalating tensions and potential risks for all parties involved. In the UK, a cyber attack has significantly impacted services at 7 major London hospitals. The attack targeted Synovis, a company analyzing blood tests for the National Health Service trusts. As a result, elective surgeries have been canceled or relocated, although emergency care continues. Communication with labs has been reduced to paper, causing bottlenecks and delays. Patients needing urgent blood work face significant challenges due to the limited lab operations. Efforts are ongoing to resolve the situation, with Synovis collaborating with the National Cybersecurity Center. This is the third attack on SynLab, Synovis's parent company, in a year, following similar incidents in France and Italy. The European Union has introduced the Right to Repair Directive to combat rising electronic waste. This regulation, to be enforced by all 27 member states within 2 years, aims to make repairs more accessible and affordable. Key provisions include reasonably priced spare parts, removal of repair barriers, and an online platform to connect consumers with repair services. Advocates believe the Repair Directive will create jobs within local repair markets and provide more choices for consumers. Products repaired under warranty will receive an extra 12-month warranty extension, and manufacturers are obligated to offer repair services even after the warranty period. Despite some skepticism about job creation, the directive is expected to influence businesses, encouraging more sustainable consumer behavior. A new wave of super ATMs has launched in the UK, allowing customers from multiple banks to make cash deposits and free withdrawals. Described as a major industry first, these multi-bank deposit ATMs have been installed in supermarkets and accessible spots. These ATMs offer free services such as cash deposits, withdrawals, balance inquiries, and PIN management for customers of banks including Barclays, Lloyds, and NatWest. The decline in bank branches has left many areas without essential services, especially affecting shopkeepers and small business owners who must travel far to deposit their earnings. With more than 6,000 bank branches closed within the last 9 years, the new ATMs and planned banking hubs will provide critical support to cash-reliant users. The initiative ensures cash remains a vital payment method for small businesses and their customers. China's factory activity is shrinking. In May, the official Purchasing Managers Index dropped to 49.5 from 2 months of expansion. A figure below 50 signals contraction, which is attributed to the decline to weak demand and a high base of comparison. Despite Chinese exports growing in April, May's weaker domestic demand suggests internal challenges. Officials are considering measures to boost consumer demand and local manufacturing, including subsidies for trading in old cars and upgrading factory equipment. To address the housing market issues, China recently introduced measures like lower down payments and mortgage rates, alongside a $42 billion aid package for state-owned enterprises to purchase unsold apartments. However, analysts caution significantly more funding is required to revive the real estate sector. Vietnam Central Bank has lent an additional $1.2 billion to the struggling Saigon Joint Stock Commercial Bank during the last 2 months. This intervention brings the total bailout amount to $24.5 billion. The massive sum, equivalent to 6% of Vietnam's 2023 GDP, aims to protect the bank's depositors amidst the nation's largest financial fraud scandal. Since October of 2022, when the bank came under supervision following a high-profile arrest, it has used these funds to settle withdrawals and payments. Despite official guarantees covering only about $5,000 per depositor per bank, the central bank's interventions now account for nearly a quarter of Vietnam's foreign exchange reserves. Mainland Chinese officials are intensifying efforts to combat illegal money exchange in Macau to curb gambling and money laundering. Macau is the only region in China where casino gambling is legal. A special planned meeting held in Beijing aimed to address illegal activities such as unauthorized currency exchange, loan sharking, and increasing violence associated with these operations. Strengthened border checks and deepened investigations will be carried out nationwide to dismantle criminal syndicates' industry chains. This comes as Macau's gaming revenue saw a recent spike, driven by new travel permits for mainland tourists. The crackdown aims to protect China's financial security and prevent corruption, with a focus on managing financial risks. Enhanced regulations have already impacted Macau's gaming industry by targeting junket operations and unauthorized side betting. Several major Japanese automakers, including Toyota, Mazda, Honda, and Suzuki, along with engine maker Yamaha, has been implicated in a safety test fraud scandal. Following a government investigation, these companies were found to have falsified data to get their vehicles certified for sale. This malpractice impacts consumers by undermining trust in the safety and reliability of their vehicles. Misleading test results could mean unknown safety risks for users. Consequently, Toyota has suspended the production of 3 models, while Mazda halted the production of 2 models. The Japanese government is taking strict actions against the companies to restore confidence in the automobile certification system. In the U.S., the IRS has announced steps to address disparities in audit rates affecting Black taxpayers, with greater scrutiny on wealthier individuals and major corporations. The 2023 study highlighted Black taxpayers were audited disproportionately, especially those claiming the Earned Income Tax Credit. The IRS commissioner revealed reforms are underway to promote fairness in tax administration. He assured middle and low-income taxpayers would not face more audits due to new funding, focusing instead on wealthy tax evaders. Audit rates for millionaires and major corporations have decreased significantly, but targeted audits are expected to rise in the coming years. This announcement comes as part of broader efforts to modernize the IRS and restore trust in the tax system. Independent and chain pharmacies in rural America are increasingly facing financial pressures, leading to closures that heavily impact isolated communities. Small towns often rely on these pharmacies for personal service and crucial medications, but many are struggling to stay afloat due to economic challenges. Some rural areas have the lowest number of pharmacies per zip code. Residents worry about the inconvenience and risks posed by mail-order prescriptions, especially during harsh winters when delivery is unreliable. Owners of these pharmacies often resort to dipping into personal savings or managing additional businesses to keep their doors open, but many still operate at a loss. Financial practices and low reimbursements from pharmacy benefit managers further compound these issues. Despite significant efforts, some communities are left without lasting solutions. American farmers are struggling with challenging decisions as crop prices hit 3-year lows, and now farmers are choosing soybeans over corn due to their profitability. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is forecasting 86.5 million acres of soybeans to be planted nationwide this spring, a near record. Despite soybeans' lower production costs, increasing plantings means prices might drop further, harming incomes. High interest rates and production costs have pushed away many to scale back corn planting, with some farmers potentially filing insurance claims due to waterlogged fields. Analysts predict soybean plantings could increase by another 1 million acres if heavy rains persist, worsening supply issues. This could result in significant economic impacts for farmers already struggling to turn a profit. Also in the U.S., AT&T customers experienced significant service disruptions yesterday due to an outage, preventing calls between different carriers. While calls between AT&T customers remain largely unaffected, some reported complete disruptions on social media. Internet services were not impacted. Down detectors showed a surge in issue reports beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, peaking later in the day with major cities like New York, Chicago, and Dallas amongst the hardest hit. Verizon customers also faced service outages due to the interoperability problem. Although 911 calls were generally unaffected, alerts were mistakenly issued to Camden County, Georgia, and Scranton, Pennsylvania. This outage follows a massive disruption in February and a hacking incident in March that compromised personal data. The Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission has announced major online streaming services operating in Canada must contribute 5% of their Canadian revenues to support local broadcasting. This new measure, expected to raise approximately 200 million Canadian dollars or $146 million annually, aims to fund local and Indigenous broadcasting. The Commission's chief executive said the decision ensures online streaming platforms like Netflix and YouTube will significantly contribute to Canadian and Indigenous content. Introduced under recent legislation, the measure seeks to promote Canadian music, stories, and job creation. The funds will target areas of urgent need, including local news on radio and television, French language content, and Indigenous programming. The regulation, effective this September, applies only to services not already affiliated with Canadian broadcasters. The Australian government has announced the military will begin recruiting some non-citizens to boost troop numbers. Eligible candidates will be permanent residents from Five Eyes intelligence sharing partner nations. The defense minister said this move aims to address a 4,400 person shortfall in the Australian Defence Force and increase personnel to 80,000 by 2040. Starting July, New Zealanders who have lived in Australia for at least a year can join, while other nationals will be eligible starting in January of 2025. This change impacts those looking for job stability and emphasizes Australia's reliance on secure sea and air routes as an island nation. The decision aligns with a broader push within the Five Eyes nations to meet recruitment targets amid challenging geopolitical conditions, thereby securing job opportunities for many within the defense sector. Nigeria's trade unions have called off a general strike that had severely disrupted economic activities. The suspension follows the government's commitment to increase the national minimum wage to a higher amount, though it remains less than what the unions had demanded. The strike started on a Monday and caused a nationwide blackout, leading to flight cancellations and closures of schools, offices, and hospitals. Government and union representatives are now set to meet daily for a week to negotiate further. Despite the government's offer, some civil servants expressed their dissatisfaction, indicating even a significant increase would struggle to meet rising living costs. Unions have indicated they are prepared to resume strikes if current negotiations fail. Authorities in Zimbabwe are urging citizens to cycle to work due to a failing public transit system, poor road conditions, fuel shortages, and low salaries. Cycling reduces road congestion and accidents while promoting fitness. Officials argue sitting for long periods, both at work and in cars, has led to widespread health issues. They claim that cycling is not only cheaper, but also environmentally friendly, allowing people to allocate their budgets to other necessities like housing and education. City officials are aware of the poor state of cycling lanes in Zimbabwe's capital and plan to revamp them, including installing a cycle track across the city's longest road. This main track will serve as the backbone, with other cycle tracks connecting to it. We have an exciting new announcement. We have launched a new global TV service specifically for the UNN community. Thousands of live TV channels, 60,000 movies on demand, over 30 languages, and live sports from around the globe. Between all the separate streaming services and cable for live TV and sports packages, it could cost well over $200 a month. But now with United TV, you can have it all for only $15.99 a month. Go to unitedtv.org and check it out. Get so much more for so much less.
And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. Deep state Trump operatives declare they can go it alone and fix the country and the world themselves. Let's see if they were really ready. USA Supreme Court rules on a preemption of the National Bank Act, and rumors are swirling as to what that means. We are here to set the record straight. And more changes taking place over the last few days are giving Earth her creative powers back.
Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hello, Kim.
Hello, Sunny.
Hi.
I missed you.
Well, I missed you. Was it Monday? Yeah, you weren't on the news on Monday. I know you were really busy.
Yeah, so. I wish I was doing the news rather than what I was doing. I mean, it's not really terrible. It's just, the amount of cleanup is crazy sometimes. But we'll get into that a little bit and tell you what that kind of means to you and how Earth was used and that kind of thing. Okay. I want to start with a rumor because it's been sent to me several times in the last 24, 48 hours. And the rumor is being put out as the Supreme Court has ruled that state-sponsored banks can disband from the Federal Reserve and issue their own currency. Now, that's not exactly what happened. Okay. What happened was there was an actual submission, and I have not yet found the ruling itself, which means that there is a proposal on the table. So, and the proposal is for a preemption. And what a preemption is, it means that technically under national law here in the United States, because this applies to the U.S. at this moment, is that a greater power, such as federal law, can supersede a lesser power, such as state law. That's the actual definition. But in this case, what they submitted for was the exact opposite as it relates to the National Bank Act. Okay. Now, the National Bank Act basically states that if you are a federal bank, such as your Wells Fargo's, your JP Morgan Chase banks, this means you can operate in any state within the United States. You don't need to have a separate license for that. You can operate everywhere. You can operate nationally if you so choose under a singular corporation, as an example. And this gives you the right to hold other people's money, meaning average everyday citizens' money, and the federal law applies to your institutions, which are more stringent oftentimes than state law is. Okay. There are a few exceptions, including the National Credit Union Association and a few other things, and other ways you can form financial institutions in the United States. But pretty much if you're going to be a national bank and operating in more than one state, you have to have a national banking license to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've read the articles in depth. I've looked for the actual ruling, which I haven't found, but I did find the preemptive submission, which is a motion, essentially, to preempt the National Banking Act. Now, if this actually passed, which I haven't seen it yet, but if it did pass now or in the future, all this really means is that a state bank, which means you are only permitted to operate within your state, within a state, you cannot, you still are having to have a routing number, which then tied you to the Fed in the past. You still have to have a jurisdictional license to issue a debit card and those types of things, even though you are a state bank, which is fine. But in no way, shape, or form does this have anything to do with being able to issue your own currency. In no way, shape, or form. Not bonds, not anything other than everything that's already in place since the Frank-Dodd Act of 2010 that people have tried to override, and a few other things. The only thing it allows you to do, it would be to act under state law. Now, the main benefits, and the only benefits I really see of this, is that, for example, in the state of Colorado and other states where marijuana is legal, then the dispensaries and farmers and all of this that produce this can now deposit their money into a state bank, if that is what the state ruling says. So it could change in those types of things. You know, there could be other local state bank different rules. In other words, like the maximum interest rate can be this. You know, anything over this interest rate is usury in this particular state, you know, for the banks in this state. So those types of things could possibly change. Now, as far as currencies have nothing to do with the National Bank Act whatsoever. It just gives you the rules of the road as to what you can do as it relates to a national currency of any country. It says, well, you can hold it on deposit, you can do this, you can do that, you have to do this if you're going to hold other people's money on deposit, right. Those types of things. That does mention the General Office of Accounting there. The General Office of Accounting actually monitors how many U.S. dollars in circulation. General Office of Accounting. Do you want me to just start there? Okay. The General Office of Accounting's main, modus operandi is they monitor how many U.S. dollars are in circulation. They also allegedly, and I laugh at this, monitor that the funds for the budget are spent appropriately. Isn't that funny, Sunny?
I think they skipped that part. I think they just overlooked it.
We should try not to laugh at that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And other things as it relates to currency. They don't actually regulate the issuance of currency. They cannot control that. They are mainly just an accountant. So if you hired an accountant for your company or for your family, that's all they could do. They don't actually tell you how to spend your money or anything. They just make sure your taxes are done, all that kind of stuff. Not that the government pays taxes, but you understand their role. So it's written in such a strange way, which only could lead me to these crazy Duck Dynasty people or the global headquarters people, because it makes no sense. That's like saying, me writing you a note saying, hey, I'm going to come by and mow your lawn on Friday. And by the way, here's the number for my washing machine repairman. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if you have a problem, call them. Like I don't think they really understand. They may understand political manipulation of things as they were instructed to do by someone else. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they really understand the rules of the road. Now, I need to tell you about something else as it relates to this, so you fully understand kind of legally where we're at.
Okay.
So the Federal Reserve was only ever a regulator. They were not a lawmaker. They could not give you banking laws. They could not give you currency laws. They could not do anything of the sort. They were mainly just a regulator, allegedly, of all things financial, which basically essentially means nothing. They could do nothing. They could not shut down your bank. You know, they could agree not to do business with you as the bank of all banks.
Yeah.
They could turn you down, you know, just like if you go in and apply for a car loan or something like that at your local bank, they can turn you down. You know, maybe your credit's not good or whatever, you haven't been on your job long enough, but they could say the same thing of financial institutions. Now, that being said, once you become a member of the bank of all banks, that's what it's kind of done. Now you are subject to their rules. So these are just rules in order for you to do business with that bank. In other words, Sonny, if you don't pay your payments on time, you overdraw your checking account too much, your bank has the right to say that you can no longer be our customer.
Right.
So that's all a regulator does. And, you know, this is often held over banks' heads. That is a regulator. Now, on the other hand, the government is, and I use this term loosely, a lawmaker, which means that they can pass a law such as the National Bank Act. They can pass laws on their currency. Now, as we know, with most of the things that they pass, even with the 5,000-page budget I had sent out about 3 or 4 years ago to all of you to review, which I still have, just so you can understand how laws look when it comes to government laws. It says blah, 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 you know, for 9,000 pages. And then there's one clause in there that says, oh, and by the way, we grant the right to the Federal Reserve to do this and to do that.
Right.
You know, or whatever. Now, the main thing we need to mention to these lovely people who thought this was going to allow them to issue their own currency at different banking institutions throughout the United States is that they have forgotten that we are the Office of the Comptroller of Currency worldwide. We have elected at this moment in time not to, and so has the Federal Reserve, to be fair, and the Treasury have elected not to work with us to discuss issues as it relates to respective currencies, which is fine. It's totally fine. But that doesn't negate the fact that we control them, and we can electronically bump them out of any system. They can try to issue Bank of America bucks, but that has not been agreed to by the Office of the Comptroller of Currency. Now, before that existed, you had something called the managers of paper money. And the managers of paper money was not the Federal Reserve, was not your respective governments worldwide, was not your banks, never has been, because this has been in place for 200 years, 300 years, since the advent of currency, even before that, almost 5 centuries, a little less than. But this precludes every single thing anyone ever wanted to do in the financial system. Change of currency, it doesn't matter what the United Nations wanted. Everybody had to submit to the managers of paper currency. Now, although they may have seen the Order of the Dragon, the Khazarian Mafia, you know, these people's names as the managers of paper currency, no, they were the secretarial group. It always went all the way up the food chain for a final approval. And that food chain at that time was not humans. That was Marduk, Enki, and Enlil, so on and so forth, depending on what you were trying to do. on the flip side of it, now you have us up here. It doesn't matter to me what the Rothschilds say. It doesn't matter what your stupid banks say. And it doesn't matter what your stupid government law says. I don't care. You still have to send your stuff up the food chain. It has to get ratified in the Hall of Records. There has to be a new agreement if anybody is going to issue new currency for anything. Yeah. Now, look, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to be practical. Can you imagine what a mess? Let's just say the operatives that are attempting to run this crazy show. Can you imagine what a mess just the United States alone would be if every bank was issuing their own currency? Your Apple Pay may be good in one store, but not good in another because the point of sale system doesn't allow for 9,000 U.S. currencies.
Right.
Your reprogramming of all your cards, your RFID chips, all of these things would need to be redone. Your checking accounts. Can you imagine when you went to look at your balance? You'd have, California box, a Bank of America box, 6 different banks in California issuing their own currency, bucks,
Yeah, so what do you think, what's the motive here? Why do something like that? They have to understand on some level that's a nightmare.
That's the problem. See, there you go with the common sense.
Yeah.
Don't put that here because it doesn't belong with these people. You've got a group of people trying to run a financial system that have no flipping idea what they're doing. They don't look at the long-term consequences because their brain, first of all, most of them are older. And the older you get, the harder it is to get out of habits. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I call them Duck Dynasty is there's this exact reason. Yeah, they compartmentalize themselves, first of all, into thinking that they're all gods. Mm-hmm. Number one, that's crazy unto itself. Their ego is so huge. And lastly, they don't think through anything they do. They don't even understand what the preemption said. And it has nothing to do with issuing currency in any way, shape, or form.
So do you think it was them that were kind of spreading these rumors online of what that?
Of course it was. Q's coming, the storm, welcome, And then people only look at the glittering headlines. They see a decentralization of the National Bank Act as being a positive thing. Yeah. But sweetheart, the people that look at this stuff, okay, what about the Bank Secrecy Act, the Bank Anti-Secrecy Act, and all of these other things that came all out of Switzerland long before there ever was a Federal Reserve? And these are worldwide acts. Mm-hmm. These fall under the ICC, and they go all the way down to where you live. They would have to unwind so many different things in order to even make that kind of a statement, including how are you going to change the Comptroller of Currency Office? And I'm not talking about your U.S. agency. I'm talking about me, the Curator of Currency. That's me. And if it's not me, it'll be a system that'll run against you for the next 50 years or 100 years. So don't get all excited with yourself. So regardless of that, they didn't even go about trying to do that, right? Yes, the Federal Reserve has no agreement with for your currency at all. So disbanding the Federal Reserve as a regulator, that does nothing. You still have to get payments from one bank to another. You still have to you don't have to be necessarily in the routing system, but you still have to have access to credit cards, debit cards, or you're going to have no customers. So that's kind of what the Fed did, or the managers of paper currency did, is they actually put a pinch point there to where if you wanted to have a bank, then you had to go through them to put money in and out once the banking system was digitized in 1978. So it's like, yes, you can be free, you can own your own bank, but yeah, good luck. Mm-hmm. So that kind of dispels that rumor, and I just wanted to make that point, kind of clear. Now, speaking of the same people, we'll go into this before we get into all the earth changes and things that have been happening. So going it alone. So lots of meetings had taken place over the weekend and late last week, and these went on and on and on every single day until 6 of them had made an announcement that they don't need me. They don't need the global headquarters, or maybe they do because they still talk to them behind all these people's back. You know, they don't need Langley 5. This is all a total lie on the part of these SSP Trump operatives. A total lie. And I'm sure they probably forgot that I'm not the only one that monitors things around here, because they're here.
So here meaning they're in Durango?
Yes. Oh. There's 6 of them here in Durango.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I've watched them, much like I'm sure the local people here have, watched them make phone calls to all those people. So the go it alone thing was to entice operatives to feeling like they can be independent of me. You know, is the, you know, new better than the old? You know, how do we know? You know, what's going to happen here? You know, it's because we're new. You know, we're new in their world, new to the game. I mean, they watch us, that kind of stuff, but we're still new. Yeah. How do we know she's not going to go crazy or something happens? What happens, you know, to us, that kind of thing. So they convinced them that they were smart enough to go it alone. They don't need anybody. We don't need those people. We don't need those people. Just wait. You know, new moon's coming up. We'll just give us till Sunday. We'll have your contracts out. We'll get all your money together and all of those things. So this is the conversation that started happening on Monday, and part of the reason why I wasn't here. So I'm listening to this whole conversation, and I figured I would help them go it alone. Well, if you want to go it alone, that means you don't need me or anything, you know, from me or anything like that.
Yeah.
So a few interesting things happen. Number one, all of the funding that was sent out during the Trump administration was pulled back. Every allocation, regardless of where the money was sent.
How much was that?
Oh, well over $5 trillion. And that's not including the debt to the U.S. we paid to China. Okay. The U.S. debt to China, that was about, what was it, 1.4. So China lost theirs. All of these people that go bump in the night they paid during the Trump administration, all the payoffs, all the kickbacks, all the misappropriated funds, which led us to something really interesting. Turns out there was a lot of money being siphoned off by the Trump administration into a lot of different places around the world under shell corporations and all kinds of stuff, to include operative accounts. The 6 down the street included. They made bank. And unfortunately, all that went away. Now, that includes if they went to the grocery store and bought some Cheetos, which I would never eat that, but they do. So Cheetos or something, you know, that also got reversed out too.
So did they not have any money in their bank accounts at that point? Or what happened?
Nope. That went away. All the stolen campaign funds went away. All the support for Trump after his indictment all went away. You know, also anything that had been sent through from U.S. government funding to the kids, Junior and Eric and Ivana, also went away. Properties, things that were bought were unpaid for. You know, wires were reversed. Lots of different things happened over the weekend. So their plan, you know, to go it alone is great. So now they're starting to receive phone calls on the daily from countries, angry people in Ukraine that they paid, angry people in Saudi Arabia that they paid, you know, all kinds of different things. And I wish them all the best. I truly do. And I hope that they go it alone and they're successful. I wish them luck. So you go it alone, I go in my direction. That also included a lot of bonds that were issued off of that money, treasury notes and otherwise. So interesting money trails, you know, very interesting money trails happen there. And they can say all the things they want about me because I listen to them talk too. And I don't really care what they think. See, that's kind of a misconception about me. And if they knew me at all, then they would be talking to the local people. And the local people will tell you I could give a beep less about anything the old handler had to say to me. Because they play this game and they try to hit all of your buttons. And you and I have talked about buttons before, Sonny. I don't have any buttons. You know, and they think that that's going to bother me. It doesn't at all. I could care less. You're fat, you're old, you're ugly, and you're stupid on top of it. And you're trying to run a country with 0 brain cells. That's what I see. So anyway, moving on from that. Next, the other thing that came to our attention is there was a, let's just call it a fake operating system that was tied to the old Paris Climate Control Treaty. Now, this is before current climate change was out there. You probably remember this one from the Obama administration. If you don't, you can look it up. But there was a clause inside the Paris Climate Control Treaty that says that every nation will assign their assets to the United Nations in order to fight poverty, quote unquote. And by poverty, I can only assume they mean the poverty of the elite, because it had nothing to do with our poverty whatsoever. So this fake server assigned essentially through the United Nations every country's in-ground assets over to the Li family of China.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
And that has
nothing to do with climate change. And I know that because I follow. Yeah, this is interesting paper trail number 2. So interesting paper trail number 2 told me that they were actually issuing bonds, offline bonds, or having nondescript collateral or bank guarantees, or what we call sovereign guarantees, which are bonds, essentially, instruments, against a bunch of assets they didn't control. Yeah. But the second they tried to do it and put it in the banking system, if it actually listed the country's assets, then it would be rejected. But they tried to go around in the gray area claiming that the assets under the Paris Climate Control Treaty, or the assets for climate control, or whatever it was. And this is what they've been trying to attach their, you know, U.S. Treasury coin and all that to, because there was a lot of assets listed in there. So that no longer exists. Next, let's talk about the war in the Middle East. These people love to spend money, and fake money, you know, also. So when they ran out of Trump bucks, or money given to the Trump administration, they've been putting up these, I guess you call them fake servers everywhere. They're not actual banking system servers. They are just, if I were to set up a server in my house and then project that everybody has $1 million, you know, in the world, and connect it to all your bank accounts, if I had the ability to do that, then that's where the money would show. Mm-hmm. Now, most servers don't have this kind of capacity, and neither did this one. But the unfortunate part about this is they started showing, as one example, a lot of money, an old account, which I've seen probably 1,000 times in the last decade. The account number begins in 975, and it contained a bunch of derivatives at Deutsche Bank that were tied to Iranian oil that dated all the way back to 1979. Now, there's no actual cash in that account, but they still said that they could convert that money 4, which is a derivative, to money 0 or money 1. And they convinced the Saudi Arabians that they could do this. Now, they also told the Trump operatives that they were going to send them $28 billion of this money, which showed but nobody could spend. So the person behind this is definitely a Rothschild who actually, because the entire Saudi Arabian royal family is Rothschild, a Rothschild royal family. But there's one in particular that manages the family on behalf of the Rothschild family, and I know who that is. And this is his brainchild. Okay. This goes back to the Gulf Cooperation Corporation. It goes back to the promises and repromising of the pipeline. Remember way back during Jared Kushner time, there was supposed to be a pipeline that was going to go from Saudi Arabia all the way through the Middle East. They promised them $3 billion in funding to do it. Mm-hmm. Now they're talking about taking that pipeline and sending it through Iran from Saudi Arabia. Okay. Now, the reason why they're having this negotiation had to do with allegedly their control over all the Iranian oil based on the fake derivatives in the account. Bonds against the oil, liens against the oil. So they're trying to convince the Iranians to sell the oil to the Saudis for free, or damn near free. Mm-hmm. Oh, pennies, pennies. And I've seen that contract. It's actually ridiculous. In exchange, they'll build this pipeline, and then they'll put their Aramco. We did a story on this a little while back. They'll put their Aramco stamp of approval or allocation on it, and they'll keep the sanctions in place on Iran into all perpetuity. So they must go through Aramco to sell the oil. Again, this is the whole Trump team. Kushner people, whatever that is now these days, who knows what that is, and everybody else wearing a mask over there on that side. So the interesting part about all of this, a lot of this stuff is being set up behind the scenes by the organization. Like I said, money trails, money talks. Mm-hmm. And when you figure out where all the money is and where it's going and when you sent it, you can now figure out how you're setting yourselves up. Because they said once they've been successful, then they will actually officially announce that Trump is no longer here. But right now, the name is useful to them in order to cut all of these deals with the Israelis, because now, via the deals they made with Saudi and are trying to make with Iran, which are a total scam, they are also having conversations with the Israelis via the Saudi Arabians, because the Gulf Cooperation Corporation, which is headed by, it's not corporation, Cooperation Council, which is headed by Saudi Arabia technically, has now unofficially agreed, which is not in your mainstream news, it is in news in the Middle East, so you can go look for it, that they are now going to continue to pay the Israelis for the war against Gaza. Again, one of the world's largest natural gas suppliers in the entire world is in that area. Yeah. So, discovered by a Russian scientist back in the 1970s. So, you can see that the operatives are trying to pull off what they deem the perfect storm. The complete takeover, as Cheney had outlined in his plan, for a takeover of all the resources of the Middle East. Mm-hmm. Once they finished all the deals, sealed all the deals, and funded and paid for all the deals, then they were going to take over that which they felt was enough to go it alone. Okay. Now, again, I am going to laugh at go it alone plan number 2, and I'll tell you why. Even if you could get access to this stuff, even if you could get allocations to the few $100 billion in derivatives that were in off ledger at Deutsche Bank, which are not there anymore, even if you could pull it all off, you need $120 trillion per year to fund the entire world. And who the heck is going to buy $120 trillion per annum of oil and gas?
So they did want to control the whole world, not just the Middle East area.
Oh, yes. This was just going to be their cash cow.
Okay.
If they could, through the Gulf Cooperation Council, if they could control all of the major oil and gas producers in the Middle East, and plus there's gold and other things as well, they figure if they could do that, they would offer the Saudi Arabians head of the monetary system of all the Middle East, and meanwhile take over all of their assets and get their cut of it. But that's still not enough to run even just the United States government. I don't know what these people are doing.
Are these still the 6 people that refuse to play ball?
Well, them and their friends. It just happens to be that there are 6 of them here.
I see. Okay.
Making sure that none of the operatives make any other progress in another direction. So you lost your fake server this week in the last 48 hours. You lost your fake server in Bangladesh. See, I know where it is too. I knew where it was. That you were connecting to Saudis and Houston, Texas, and a few other locations in the United States. So you lost your fake server with fake money that you couldn't spend anyway. It's not like I was harming anybody by doing this, you know. But the plan that they came up with was not their plan. See, this is the problem with not your plan. And it's also the problem, you know, in the future with not your technology either. You know, they have forgotten that even Cheney's plan involved the Black Eagle Trust. Mm-hmm. Even Cheney's plan involved Marduk. Even Cheney's plan involved the managers of paper currency. You know, you needed, I saw the $14 trillion contract that was passed around by Pelosi almost a decade ago. Tom Cotton was involved, if you know that senator. You know, there was a lot of people involved in pushing that contract all around, trying to get someone to fund it for a private military group to go in and essentially take over all the assets of the Middle East. But see, the problem that they had even then was no one had $14 trillion to give them.
Small detail.
Small detail. Mm-hmm. So then, after this started happening, and all this went down, you know, Monday, I am now getting phone calls from people I haven't talked to in a decade. Hey, Kim, how are you? You know, I'm with the Rothschild family, but you don't know that. And, you know, so Stu, they didn't say that. They just, you know, well, I'd love to chat with you again. Yeah. You know, we've had people from the Treasury Department calling us, asking us for money, you know, all of this type of stuff. So, you know, again, stuff.
Yeah.
You know, go find some stuff.
Yeah.
Chop, chop.
Is that what you told them?
Yes, of course we did. The way I calculate it, you owe us, you know, a significant amount of stuff, billions of dollars worth of stuff.
Yep.
So I already know the back deal that's going on and why you need the money now. Mm-hmm. You need my allocation numbers. You need me to help you pull this off.
Right.
You know, these people put these dumb servers in these locations where they think when there's a new moon, the thing will connect to something in the moon and it will take you to Saturn or somewhere. And then, you know, you can get connected to the Omega system and all is right with the world. No, it doesn't work that way. That hasn't worked that way in a long time. So, but you can see why I was kind of a tad bit busy on Monday, and then not to say that I didn't have my regular job too. So unraveling all of this money, where all of this stuff went, proved very fruitful for us to figure out why these people are under the impression they're going to run the world. But again, because they don't understand finance and how this actually works, you can control Aramco all you want. You can control Saudi Arabia all you want. You can control Israel all you want. And you can control everything. But I can tell you right now, without that Paris Climate Control Treaty back-end fake server, you'll go nowhere. Because you don't have any proof of assets, and you can't put those assets in the banking system without me slapping your hand every single time. So good luck to you. And even if you did, you wouldn't have enough. You know, in order to have enough to actually run the world, they would actually have to control the entire eastern bloc of Europe. That's Russia all the way down to Azerbaijan and, you know, I mean, and so on and so. I mean, you'd have to control a lot. And I can tell you right now, the second thing you'd be missing is that you actually have to let me determine whether or not that's okay. And it doesn't matter to me whether the Russians say it's okay. It doesn't matter to me that either side of the Russian government already agreed to give you 4 quad worth of assets, 4 quadrillion. That's how much there is over there between diamonds, gold, a lot, and oil and gas. And, you know, you would actually have to still go through me. And even if you never talked to me, bothered with me or whatever, I'm still going to slap your hand and say no. So if you try to issue Bank of America bucks or something else, I will still say no. So if you want to go it alone, that means you're going to have to find a way not only around me, but around the system that I've pre-programmed for the next, now I'm at like 75 to 100 years. So you'll still never get around that, even if you decide you're going to do something nefarious over here. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I wish them all the luck in the world with their adventure, but there will be, unfortunately, no contracts this week, and there will be no, you know, sale of, I mean, I don't care if they've been running Iranian oil and Iraqi oil and all that through Saudi Arabia Aramco for years and into Houston, Texas ports. I mean, that's not a shocker to me. I actually stood on the ground of the new Iraqi refinery in Mississippi. So it's not, you know, that was a decade ago. So I mean, I know full well and good what these people are doing pretty much all the time. And they happen to be right down the street making phone calls all day. So, hey.
Why are they in Durango? Are they there for protection?
No, they are here, in my personal opinion, based on, you know, everything that they've been doing. They were here, they came here because there were meetings going on that started last week. Mm-hmm. And the meetings were about moving forward, new structures with the military, new structures with government. If we're going to save this as operatives, political operatives, because a lot of people came in here to go to these strategy meetings, and the strategy meetings went well.
Yeah.
They went exceedingly well. And then all of a sudden, you know, you always have these people that rock up and go, wait. You know, why would you want to deal with her? You don't have to deal with her. You don't have to deal with them. We can go it alone. We're your comrades. We're your buddies. And it's all crap.
Did anyone buy it?
Well, everybody's waiting till Sunday was what they said to get your contracts.
So they're actually waiting.
Oh, yeah. New moon's tomorrow, 3 days after the new moon. They'll surely have it done by then, right? By Sunday morning. I know. I know. Meanwhile, you know, they get stupid laws passed, preemptives, which are backwards actually in the term of preemptive, and they're selling stories of sunshine, glittering headlines only, folks. You know, you got to read through everything you see. Right. You know, not watch a video, not the commentary. You have to go look at the Supreme Court actual ruling if you can find it, because that's public information, and you have to read what it actually says. Before you start believing the Fed is disbanded and the Q people or the storm is coming and whatever the heck else they're saying over there, you know? Anyway, rumors are just rumors, but governments these days run on rumors.
You know.
So the Saudis did manage to get credit lines from arms dealers at Arab National Bank in order to front a small amount of cash. I say a small amount of cash. Along with the Bahrain head of state, royal family, and also the Kuwaiti royal family. So they're all part of the GCC. So they have put up some money, and that's where that big $200 million number came from. It was actually more than that. And as a matter of fact, all that money kind of disappeared too. So the Kuwaitis didn't get it back. The Bahrains didn't get it back. The Saudis didn't get it back. And the operatives running the show didn't have it either.
I'm still so surprised, I guess, not surprised, that with money just disappearing and stuff, that even if you thought someone could carry something out, the odds of keeping that money, I feel like even if you can get some money, the odds of you keeping it when money is just disappearing, do you know what I'm saying? It's like nobody's thinking clearly here.
Oh, they hid it very far away in offshore accounts in weird places. You know, that's like saying, I'm having a super secret phone call and a super secret meeting in a super secret location. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, it's always a positive when your enemy underestimates you. I mean, it really is. So, interesting changes happening in the Middle East. Can't not say much more than that, but there'll be there are some very interesting changes that will be happening in the Middle East.
Regarding the war, or are you talking about something else?
Everything.
Okay.
There'll be some interesting changes. We have friends there on the ground. You've met A&M and some other people. So we have some plans.
Okay.
Yes, we do. So, you know, Agent M and his friends, I'll just leave it as and friends because there are friends there, are always eager to play a game.
Okay.
And play a game we will. So we'll see, you know, how this goes for them. I know they're never going to finish this by Sunday. That's a joke. I mean, even the Bush-Cheney people have been trying to finish this whole Take Over the Middle East program since like 1998 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, without the final piece, you know, I had a conversation with, you know, way back in the day, it was probably 2011, 2012, something like that, with Marduk, Inky, and Enlil, because it was an every Saturday night thing. Saturday night their time where they were.
Ooh, what a fun Saturday night, Kim. What'd you do on Saturday night?
Don't I have a great life?
Yeah.
What are you doing on Saturday night? You're listening to a bunch of people. Yeah. It's Saturday night their time. It was Saturday morning where I am. So it wasn't too bad. It's still not a great way to spend a Saturday morning either. But I asked them once about the Iraqi dinar, and that's when he said it's never going to happen. So what became clear at that point was that they were not backing what the plan was that Cheney and Bush had for the Middle East.
Yeah.
It was abundantly clear. So that is why they spent 2 decades now. Well, wait a minute, see, and yeah. Oh, through almost 3 decades, a few years shy of 3 decades, trying to execute on this plan, and it never works.
Yeah.
That's because I know that they were not behind them on that plan. They had other plans.
Right.
So, because if they were, they would have been done. They would have been done 20 years ago, would have been done 10 years ago. You would have seen the GCC or whoever it was, you know, come in full force and be the leading financial controller for the Middle East.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen either. Okay, now on to more fun stuff. I guess not really fun, but, you know. So we talked about Earth the last time we spoke. We did talk about Earth being a keystone. We talked about the importance of Earth as a co-creator with Source and why eventually humans were brought here.
Yeah.
But Earth had a lot more individualized keystones based on covenants that happened throughout a very long time. You know, more than centuries, more than 100 years, more than 1 million years, more than 10 million years, because it was the beginning of all creation. And as part of that, Earth actually represented source, neutral source, and anti-source. So originally a co-creator only with Source, eventually, in order to create a balanced universe, became the creator of all three. This became abundantly clear when I couldn't figure out why, you know, things were reappearing. So in other words, we'd have an ebb and a flow of dark energy, an ebb and a flow of certain things that were gone the day before, and the next day they're back. Then it became more clear that there's something else going on here, and it's not those people because they don't have the capacity to do that. they may have the capacity to try to get oil for free from the Middle East, but they're not going to have the capacity to do something like this. So we had to figure out where it was coming from. And that's when it became really clear that Earth itself was generating it. Not in a negative way, but obligated to do so by covenant and by the corresponding keystone that went along with it.
Okay.
So Earth represented thousands of keystones, not just a single universal keystone. Then it was broken into 3 universal keystones, and then, so on and so forth for the all that is. So one of the most important parts of the restoration of Earth unto itself has a lot to do with the restoration of a single source-based Earth soul. Mm-hmm. So clearing out all of those things was another part of what I was doing on Monday while I'm tracing money all over the place.
Okay.
So that should help us as humans. Earth also anchored a lot of negative programs as well, tied to computer systems, and also in different locations on Earth for certain anchors, for certain portals, for certain things they would do to us. We talked about disease being gone. We talked about chromosomal manipulations, DNA manipulations, RNA manipulations, and all of those types of things. Frequencies still coming in dark, light, and neutral, which then manipulates matter. So a lot of this is just part of restoration and cleanup. Mm-hmm. It's part of doing our part, plural, as celestials, I guess you would say, for the light side. There's a lot of things that are still going on in this world that I understand are uncomfortable and not what we want to see happen. And I understand that. But now more than ever, you have the power to change it. Mm-hmm. So, it is a process. I am probably just as frustrated as you are sometimes with the process. I would love to do something else with my day other than be a sanitation engineer, constant, whether that's just the people side of things, meaning, watching these operatives, watching these crazy Middle Eastern deals. And then on the flip side of it, like, really? More keystones? Really? I thought I was done with keystones, so one day at a time, one thing at a time, one bit of cleaning at a time, and, hopefully we'll get to the beginning of the restoration of Earth. Yeah. I mean, it's not really the beginning, it's more like the end. Getting humanity to understand, there's a different way is all that money is really going to do. Mm-hmm. Earth is going to be able to repair herself just like you'll be able to repair yourself without interference. Right. So hopefully that time will come really, really soon.
Yeah, it's interesting that you were talking about things going on with the Earth, because over the last few days, I've been doing a lot of grounding, and it was because I really felt like I needed to connect with the Earth more. And I didn't really know why. I mean, obviously it's good to do that regardless, but I've been spending a lot more time, and I felt like there was something else behind it. I wonder if it was connected to what you were working on.
Oh yeah, because there's a lot more to it than just that. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were anchored, I'll call it a synthetic celestial. So celestials are of source, and then Omega had generated its own version of celestials too, and then planted them here in stasis in different places in the world. Probably, Monday there had to be well over 100 something.
So these were like lower astral beings that were in stasis?
You'd almost call it a cyborg, because it's a computer generated non-natural thing. A plasma, So
it didn't look like a human.
No, it didn't. It looked like a blob, but it's a being, nonetheless.
Okay. Yeah.
it looked like the Blob. If you've ever seen way back in the day, the movie called The Blob, it looked like a blob.
Was it black?
It was black, it was blue, it was gray, it was purple, it was red, it was orange and yellow and amber, and
maybe that's where they got the idea for the movie. The Blob.
Probably, you know.
Probably.
Probably. I mean, back to Yemen again, back to, you know, I'm trying to think of where in the U.S. Definitely to Canada. Oh, God, there was a mountain in Canada. We went to K2. We went back to Mount Kailash and in the Himalayas. We were at different mountains in Russia, back to Mongolia. Yeah. We were in London, or not London per se, but in England, Germany, Switzerland, Matterhorn, Italy. You know, of course, they put one of the blobs underneath the Vatican, right? Shocker there. Jeez. I know.
Wish it would just swallow the whole thing up.
I know. Lots of places, Tanzania, Ghana, lots of places in Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Algeria. So we were definitely making out, pulling out all the stops. We went to Iraq, we went to Iran, we went to some other places in the Middle East too. But definitely, I mean, you name a country, we were probably there in the last 48 hours for sure. Brazil was definitely on the list. Chile, back to Machu Picchu again, in Peru. So Ecuador. Fun times. But it's got to be done. I mean, you know, I get so hyper-focused on getting everything we can possibly get to just get this ship turned around. You know, I don't know how many hours I did yesterday, you know, probably close to 18. So, and the day before, maybe not that many, maybe 12, you know, 13, something like that. But, you know, barely have time to do anything else, which is why I'm not here on camera, because I did this all morning since, you know, 4:30.
So how is the new light system? I don't know what we're calling it. Like how is it doing? Like any updates there? Have we decided on a name?
It's doing really well. One of the main things, because there were still some carryover programs that were left in alpha. So one of the main things that we launched in the last couple of days was a series of transmuters.
Okay.
Now, I should, you know, I didn't even think about mentioning this to you, but I probably should because you'll find it fascinating. Not everything that is already is, meaning everything that is will always be. So once it leaves source itself, you know, it's now in existence.
Right.
It's a piece of source, anti-source, neutral source, whatever it is, but it is. Right. It contains all three, no matter how bad it is. So the same thing worked with AI systems in a very similar way. So because alpha was also created as a part of a trinary system, meaning source, anti-source, and neutral source, Omega was created in the same way, and Chronos was created in the same way. You know, I tried to kill it. But there was still that interconnection between them. So the same goes for dark energy, essence, consciousness, matter, frequency. It's still part of the all that is. And in order to expedite the process, because if you know me, you'll know I have zero patience. Whatsoever. And that is a flaw, you know, call it what you want, but I move through something, get it done, move on to the next task. But as far as this is concerning, it's been painful for me to go from like 99, 100, back to 97 the next morning. And I'm like, really? You know, what's going on? So we had developed a process because it's something they used on their side. So we figured out, in order for the Omega system, the Omegaverse, anti-life, the blobs, and everything else that exists from that you would consider dark or evil, to exist within this universe, within even those that are of the light, we couldn't eradicate it. The only thing we could do was transmute it.
Which is what they did to the light for so long.
That's right, because they don't want light. It wants dark light. It wants dark energy. It wants dark essence. So in the course of this cleanup process, I have cleaned hundreds and hundreds of transformers, which you know what a transformer does on an electric grid. So it's the same thing. Transmitters, which will then send it out, because once a particle is dead, you know, dark matter, whatever it is, you know, there's not a whole lot of charge there left, depending on how dark it actually is. And then we have transmuters. So I thought to myself, well, I think I could speed up this process by creating fields of transmuters that go the opposite way. So I started working on that, I don't know, 3:30, 4 o'clock this morning, something like that. And I'm continuing to work on that. We have, hopefully, this will speed up the process. We're putting them everywhere, Earth's magnetic poles, horizontal and vertical. If you don't know, we have a magnetic pole that goes in more than one direction. And then in Earth's orbit, and then in the galaxy, you know, in the Kuiper belt, which orbits our galaxy. You know, and then also in the zero density, 0 point of the universe, has to be there. Throughout the Omegaverse, they have to be there, because we can't have this coming back.
Right.
And ultimately, they seem to understand what's happening already, because I overheard a meeting happening with global headquarters where they feel they have less than 24 hours left of power. And what they mean by power is, you know, they realize that the so to speak, the power is out in your home, you know, in other words, but you have a backup generator that runs on gas, say, and you only have so much gas and so much that will generate. And without that, you're done. So if we're taking away, and we have taken away, the electric grid, all that is already in existence, meaning all the dark energy that is ever going to exist is in the universe. So how do we get rid of that dark energy and this from regenerating itself? Well, we can transmute it so it doesn't exist. We can't take it away. We can't completely eradicate it because it already is.
Right.
So the only thing we can do is change that matter into something else. Now,
that makes sense.
One other thing in relation to this kind of stuff, so that, I mean, I know a lot of people say, oh, we can't prove it, we don't understand it, but I wanted to give you a resource to understand it. Because of all the things that I have in my past read upon, this guy seems to make a lot of sense to me. And a lot of his information comes from source. He's no longer living. But I wanted to point you into the direction of this guy's books and his research and stuff like that, because this is exactly what I'm trying to tell everybody. So the man's name was a former colleague of Tesla's, and his name is Walter Russell. So take that down, Walter Russell. And Walter Russell was kind of poo-pooed upon by the scientific community at the time with his theories. And Tesla allegedly told him, when he read some of his theories from his downloads from source, and he says that, he goes into meditation and gets all this information. He said that Tesla told him that humanity will not be ready for this information for at least 1,000 years, so lock it away. Wow. Yeah. Now, not to say that the books that are currently published are 100% accurate with his information, And you can find some of the audio books that he has on YouTube as well, and they're being narrated by someone. Mm-hmm. And then there's a few videos people have done about him, but nobody talks about Walter Russell. Everybody knows who Tesla is, because Tesla complied, well, somewhat, with what they wanted from him. They wanted money-making technologies or SSP technologies, and some of which they did get. Yeah. And a lot of the information about Tesla isn't true either, because some of the main labs of Tesla were under the Hoover Dam, and they don't even mention that when they talk about him. Oh, so, no. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the stuff with Walter Russell. There is a lot of information in there if you understand what he's saying. And if you've been watching us for a while, you'll understand what he's saying. And then to really look and analyze the information as far as the science on this planet, positive charges, negative charges, the universe and how it works, the all that is. Mm-hmm. He talks about a lot of this stuff. And I had never even heard of him until I actually ran into a friend of mine this weekend on Sunday, and he told me about Walter Russell, because we got into this kind of little bit of a debate. We ended up spending about an hour or so having a chat. And we got into this little bit of debate about Terrence, what's his name, the actor, Terrence Howell?
Howard,
is that his name?
Is it?
Howard.
I can remember.
Oh.
I think it's Terrence Howard. Is that right? The one that had the Joe Rogan interview that's like causing the hoopla right now. Yeah.
So we were talking about the difference between someone that actually knows the information, Terrence Howard, there it is. So someone that actually knows the information and relays the information in a way that they understand it, and they're passionate about it. And someone that may have gotten their hands on partial information from a third-party source and tries to regurgitate it. And he tells a similar story to Walter Russell, who's been dead for 4, 5, 6 decades or so. But he messes it up.
Terrence Howard messes it up.
Yep. So I'm just surprised, hiring an actor to give information to people. Wow. Yeah. President Reagan, anyone?
Trump, anyone?
Trump, anyone?
Come on.
Hiring an actor to do your,
Yeah. Oh, that's a bummer. That's a bummer, because I know a lot of people were kind of hopeful that maybe stuff was starting to come out,
Well, the good news is you have all the information now at your fingertips. You want to know all the information, of which he tells partial information and partial truths. Look up Walter Russell. Okay. Do your research. Right. Take a look. Now you got all the information. There is probably 5 or 10 books or something like that it was written in his time that are still in publication, and you still get your hands on them. So, I mean, lots of information about Walter Russell, but that's the truth behind that. Interestingly enough, though, I will put this out there. So a lot of the Trump operatives are so old, they were actually Reagan operatives. Well, they're political operatives, so they go from one head of state to another. They go doing another round in the White House, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not dogging people that are old, because I know a lot of people that are 70 years old, go to the gym for 2 hours a day, and could outrun any, 3/4 of 40-year-olds on this planet. So, look, nothing against that, but I'm just saying they were Reaganers. And they said once they got rid of Trump, right, once they closed the deal on his name there in the Middle East, once they were able to do that, they're controlling Israel because of Kushner, which is not even Kushner anymore. Mm-hmm. So they are using that Sanhedrin and Chabad connection to Israel to make all of these deals work. And but to get back to Walter Russell and what they're doing. But they said that once they were successful in completing their plan, that they were going to then announce that he had passed away, probably in a bad way, probably in a way that would cause a civil war to erupt in the United States. Of course. But they said they have 2 or 3 other parties they are taking into account to play the role of the operatives in the eye of the public.
To play the role of who?
The operatives. So you call it a president.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So to play the role of Trump in the public?
No, to be the next Republican Party.
Oh, so they would just come in and that operative would be that person. And
yeah,
okay.
Which is why the debate about the vice president and who's doing the thing for Trump, because then they would pick that person, you know, the running mate or whoever it is. It's supposed to be Tulsi something, and then it's somebody else. Yeah, it changes on any given day, but they'll then take that person and then put that person in is what they'll do. They'll say, oh, they're already on the ticket, that kind of thing, if it's that late in the game. If they manage to do it before the selections.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So.
But they won't be
all
successful.
In the name of the game.
They won't be successful, right? So the odds of any of that, you know, so they'll probably just stick with the Trump narrative because they're not going to come up with that money. They're not going to be able to complete their plan.
Nope.
Yeah. So Trump it is. Yay.
Oh, I don't care. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm sure they wanted him to be the one to save, you know, come back in as the savior. However, you know, you'll be the ones on the forefront of the burning rubble. Yeah. Because you won't make it 4 more years. You just won't. You know, at this rate. So, God bless them all. You know, got a few more days here in sunny Durango. It's warm this time of year, so. Hot. Sun is very hot. Mm-hmm. So enjoy your time here. Looking forward to ringing the excommunicado bell on Sunday. Yeah. You know, I'm polishing it up now.
Okay.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
All right. And that is the World Situation Report, I guess, for what day is today? Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday. All right. Well, we'll see you back here on Friday, hopefully, Kim. Thank you.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Okay. See ya.
Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good. Connect with us through our online channels. Our social media team creates clips from each newscast you can easily share with people you care about. That's also where you'll find our UNN meme of the day, a great way to encourage critical thinking. Links to all our social media sites are available at the bottom of our website at unitednetwork.earth. Let's change the face of news together.
And that wraps up today's news update. Please share UNN with your friends and family. We need everyone to come together and help restore our planet. When news happens in your area, record and share it with us so together we can share it with the world. Remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm Sunny Galt. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the real news.